The blood wasn't mine. The badge wasn't his. And the truth? It was buried 6 feet under a name that wasn't real. My K9 partner was the only one who knew it, and he was the reason I survived. Please subscribe and turn on your notifications button so that you will be the first to know whenever we post stories. It was supposed to be a quiet night. I had just clocked out. I was home, barefoot in sweatpants, microwaving spaghetti and half listening to the radio when my phone buzzed. Code 19. Warehouse 47. Need K9 support. I hesitated. My shift had ended an hour ago. But the dispatcher added, Lieutenant Walker specifically requested you. Rex. My partner, a Belgian Malinois with 6 years of active duty, lifted his head the moment I grabbed my vest. Jason, my fiancé, stood at the doorway watching me suit up. He wasn't in uniform, just sweatpants, socks, a half-finished glass of wine in one hand. You sure you're going in? He asked. You just got off. I clipped Rex's harness, checked my mag and adjusted my vest. They need the nose. Jason gave me a soft smile. Don't forget your cam this time. I glanced down. Body cam, green light. Operational. Already rolling, I said. He stepped forward, gave me a kiss, and as he pulled back his hand brushed the camera again, lingering for just a second. I didn't think twice. I should have. The warehouse was quiet when we arrived, too quiet. No sirens, no backup outside, just 2 patrol units and an unmarked SUV. Lieutenant Walker waved me over. East side breach. You and Rex sweep first, he said. We'll follow once it's clear. Copy. Rex was already on edge. Hackles raised, nose twitching. He gave 3 short barks. Movement. East corridor. I moved fast. Rows of crates. Some half open. The air was thick with ammonia, and something metallic. I swept left. Rex darted ahead, then froze his ears up. That's when I heard it. Gunshot. Someone hit me from behind. Hard. I crashed to the floor. My vision spun. Rex barked, loud, furious. Then silence. When I opened my eyes, I was on my side. Hand clenched around a Glock. Not mine. My holster was still sealed. In front of me, a body. A uniform. Blood everywhere. I couldn't see the face. It was unrecognizable. But the badge? Voices shouted behind me. She shot him. Gun in her hand. Officer down. I tried to speak, to explain, but the words stuck in my throat. Someone ripped the gun from my grip. Someone else screamed for backup. Rex tried to reach me, but an arm yanked him back. The last thing I saw before the cuffs clicked shut, Jason standing behind the police tape. Expressionless. And suddenly I knew. I just walked into a trap. They booked me within the hour. Zip ties. Fingerprints. Orange jumpsuit. A headline before I even stepped into holding. K9 officer shoots fellow cop during raid. I remember sitting in that concrete room, lights too bright, wrists burning from the plastic cuffs, staring at the security camera in the corner. Jason used to joke about how Rex was the real boyfriend. Said it wasn't hygienic when I let him on the couch. I used to laugh it off. But now I wonder if what he hated was Rex's loyalty. Loyalty you couldn't buy. He always asked questions about my assignments, not like a worried fiancé but like someone tracking risk. I thought it was a concern. Now I know better. No one looked me in the eye. No one asked me what really happened. Jason arrived 4 hours later. He brought coffee. He held my hand. It's going to be okay, he whispered. But I saw the look in his eyes. Something careful. Too careful. That night, my cam footage was reported as lost due to signal interference. The Glock I'd been found holding? Traced back to an unsolved gang bust. My fingerprints? All over it. They said I must have snapped. They said Officer Dylan Moore had filed a complaint about me just days earlier. One I'd never seen. Internal affairs swept in. The union went quiet. My badge was suspended. My rank stripped. My bail denied. But Rex. He knew something was wrong. When they tried to separate us in the holding facility, he snarled at the handlers. Refused to eat. Sat facing the door of my cell for hours, unmoving. Rex has gone feral, one officer said. But he hadn't. He was mourning. Or maybe, planning. They sedated him. And when I woke up the next morning, he was gone. Transferred. Reassigned for behavioral retraining, they told me. No goodbyes. No visit. Not even a damn paw print on a report. Just silence. And in that silence I realized something chilling. This wasn't just a setup. It was a cover-up. And they were willing to erase me just like that. In that cell I stopped being Officer Kayla Mendez. I became a cautionary tale. A punchline to scared rookies. Don't let your heart get too close to the job. Jason's betrayal broke something I didn't know could be broken. Not my faith in justice but in myself. I had always been the one people called for the truth. But now I was the headline people whispered about. Maybe she snapped. I stared at the body cam they claimed had gone silent and thought about how loudly my silence screamed. The only thing louder was the absence of Rex's footsteps. I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal or the loneliness. But they hadn't counted on Rex. Because somewhere out there, he was still fighting for me. Rex didn't understand human words, but he understood lies. He had hurt Pack Leader. And Rex's nose knew truth. It had to be shared. Rex limped to Kaya's door, blood crusted on his side, carrying the small bag clamped in his jaw. Not just instinct but purpose. Because his nose knew truth. And it had to be shared. Kaya hadn't seen me in years. She was 17 now, all dyed hair, sarcasm and fire. But once, when she was just 13, I pulled her out of a motel room where she was being trafficked. I stayed with her through the court case. Testified. Helped her find a safe home. He called me her big sister. And when Rex showed up at her door she didn't hesitate. She let him in. Cleaned his wounds. Fed him roast chicken. Then she opened the Ziploc bag. A flash drive. He plugged it in. And the screen lit up. Encrypted files. Hundreds. Most of it was junk. But then she found it. A folder labeled Reaper. Inside. Raw body cam data from the night of the raid. Emails between Jason and Lieutenant Walker. Blueprints of the warehouse, marked with hand-drawn notes. A memo with a payout figure and an account number offshore. And then came the footage. Time-stamped 30 minutes before the raid. Jason standing outside our apartment. Holding me. Tapping my vest. Then, a cut to a second camera. A drone. Illegal, unauthorized. Hovering near the warehouse. It caught Jason walking inside, placing something behind crate B4. Then exiting through a service door before the team even arrived. And the final blow? A voice recording. She's inside. Cam is down. Crates marked. Execute. Kaya backed up the files. Then she posted them online. You once told me, Kaya said, fingers flying across her keyboard. Never stop digging until the roots show. She looked up. So I'm digging, sis. All the way to hell if I have to. I hadn't realized until that moment. She wasn't just a survivor. She was my legacy. A spark I passed on, and now she was burning through their lies. Within hours I was trending. Hashtag justice for Kayla. Hashtag Freak9Rex. Hashtag bodycamgate. The department scrambled. Internal Affairs reopened the case. A new judge called for an emergency review. And for the first time in almost a year, I had something I hadn't had since the night of the raid. Hope. The motion to vacate my sentence hit the court like a thunderclap. It wasn't just the footage. It was the outrage. Social media exploded. Podcasts analyzed every detail. Former cops came forward anonymously to say they'd been pressured to stay silent. Even the governor tweeted, "If these allegations are true, justice demands swift correction." Within 48 hours a special hearing was called. I was escorted in, not in shackles this time, but still in a prison uniform. Marisol Vega, my new attorney, stood beside me like a blade drawn from a scabbard. She played the drone footage. She read the transcripts. She laid out the offshore accounts. Jason wasn't there. Neither was Lieutenant Walker. But the courtroom was packed. Press. Protesters. Retired cops. Survivors of wrongful convictions. Everyone watching. The judge's ruling was short, stern, and devastating to the prosecution. The conviction is hereby vacated. Ms. Mendez is to be released pending a full investigation into misconduct and conspiracy. The gavel struck. And just like that the cell door opened. I walked out into daylight for the first time in 312 days. Rex was waiting for me outside. He ran to me. Tail wagging. Eyes wet. I dropped to my knees and buried my face in his fur. We were home. Or so I thought. 3 days later Kayla received a package. No return address. No name. Inside. A single USB. I still carried the precinct's challenge coin, the one I earned after the Collins case. Strength and truth. They tried to strip it from me when they took my badge, but I fought for it. Now I held it before plugging in the drive, whispering to no one, "Let this truth be loud." Later in court, I placed that coin on the witness stand before I testified. A reminder. I wasn't here to get even. I was here to expose everything. He plugged it in. A single video file played. Date stamp. 1 week after the raid. Location. Private air hangar 40 miles out of state. Camera. Handheld. From a distance. Footage. 2 men laughing, shaking hands. One of them? Dylan Moore. Alive. Not a ghost. Not a hallucination. Very much alive. We froze the frame. Ran the video through facial recognition. Cross-referenced gait, voice, posture. It was him. The man I was accused of killing had never died. Which meant one thing. The body in the warehouse wasn't Moore. And now the case had turned inside out. As if he was alive. Who did they kill? Are you sure it's him? I asked, staring at the paused frame of the video. Kaya nodded. Voice matched. Biometrics matched. Still and Moore. Alive and well. But they buried him. No, Marisol corrected gently, they buried someone. We filed an emergency request for exhumation. It took 3 days to get the order signed. The judge was reluctant. The DA fought back. But public pressure kept climbing. Protesters camped outside the courthouse. Media vans circled like vultures. When they opened the grave, the stench of rot hit hard. The casket hadn't been touched in nearly a year. The original coroner's report had claimed fire damage to the body, enough to make visual ID impossible. But what it didn't say. No DNA test was ever performed. They had relied on circumstantial evidence. Uniform, location, timing. That was it. Forensic analysis took 48 hours. The results? Clear. The man in the morgue was not Dylan Moore. His real name was Mateo Alvarez. Age 28. No next of kin. Unhoused. Picked up and released 2 weeks before the raid. We cross-referenced his last known location, a shelter 6 blocks from the police precinct. Jason and Walker had access. They needed a body. Mateo fit the profile. Similar build. Roughly the same age. Easily manipulated or drugged. Disposed of. They dressed him in Moore's spare uniform. And when the time came, they planted Mateo, staged a shooting and torched the scene just enough to prevent identification. And pinned it all on me. We gave Mateo a proper burial this time. Real name. Real headstone. No lies. I knelt beside his grave and whispered, "I'm sorry. You deserved so much better." But grief didn't sit long. Because now we had proof, not just that I was framed, but that my so-called fiancé was at the center of a murder conspiracy. And there was only one way forward. Find Moore. And find out why he ran. Rex always knew. He growled the moment Jason approached me in holding. Refused to obey him at the K9 compound. Scratched at the locker where I used to keep my backup drives. Now I understood why. Jason hadn't just lied. He had orchestrated every detail. Marisol's team dug into Jason's financials. Offshore accounts. Sudden cash flow. Hidden investments in shell corporations tied to defense contractors and black market weapons brokers. But the real break came from a flight log. 1 week after my arrest, Jason had flown on a private charter from a regional airstrip. Destination: a secluded ranch in Montana registered under a shell company. We sent that to the FBI. They confirmed someone matching Moore's description was seen at the ranch weeks ago. We were close. Meanwhile, the ballistics on the Glock came back. The gun I was found holding? Never fired. The shot that killed Mateo Alvarez came from a completely different weapon. One never found at the scene. Which meant someone planted the gun in my hand after I was knocked out. Which meant Jason had lied about everything. Even the moment we kissed before the raid. Because that wasn't a goodbye. That was the start of my death sentence. I sat on my porch that night with Rex beside me watching the footage again. Jason planting the gun. Jason whispering the order. Jason laughing in the hangar with Moore. I replayed his voice in my head. She's inside. Cam is down. Crates marked. Execute. And I made a promise out loud. I'm going to make them answer for all of it. Rex laid his head on my knee. And for the first time since that night, I saw him close his eyes. At peace. But this war was far from over. The FBI raided the Montana ranch at 4:12 a.m. They found Moore in a guest cabin half asleep with a duffel bag of burner phones and documents ready to run. Jason wasn't there. But he didn't run far. He was arrested 3 hours later at a private marina near the Canadian border, trying to board a yacht registered to a dead man. It was over. They offered Moore a deal: testify, give full cooperation and walk away with minimum time served. He took it. And when I faced him in court he couldn't look me in the eye. "I didn't know they were going to frame you," he mumbled. I didn't want to die." I stared at him, this boy I had once trained, once protected. "You let someone else die instead," I said quietly. He cried. I didn't. Jason was another story. They brought him into the holding room, shackled, eyes bloodshot. No smile. No remorse. He sat down across from me and said nothing. "So I did. You were supposed to protect people. You framed me. You murdered an innocent man. For what? A payout." He met my gaze. "You were going to ruin everything. You were digging where you shouldn't have been." "You mean the weapons ring? The kickbacks? The silence money?" He smirked. "We were keeping the city safe. You just didn't see the bigger picture." I stood. "No," I said. "I saw exactly what you were. A coward." I knocked on the door. The guards opened it. Before leaving I turned back once. "By the way," I said, "Rex pissed on your trial transcript." That made him flinch. The trial was public. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Jason got life. Walker fled the country, but an Interpol notice followed. The ring fell. And I walked out of that courtroom not as a victim, but as the woman who dismantled the corruption they tried to bury her with. The case made national news. They called it the K9 Whistleblower trial. Documentaries followed. Podcasts dissected it. And through it all Rex became more than just a hero, he became a symbol. Schools invited us to speak. Survivors sent letters. One girl wrote, "You make me believe people can come back from anything." Maybe she was right. I didn't go back to the force. I resigned quietly, returning my badge with no ceremony. I didn't want justice as a job anymore. I wanted it as a mission. So I opened a foundation, Shield and Paul. We paired retired K9s with veterans, trauma survivors and kids from abusive homes. Rex became our ambassador. He didn't sniff out drugs anymore. He sniffed out pain and helped people heal. One day while walking through our training field I found him lying in the grass, belly up, eyes half closed in the sun. A little girl from our newest program sat beside him, drawing him in her sketchbook. I sat next to her. "Is he your favorite?" I asked. She nodded. "He's not like the other dogs. He doesn't bark much." "He's done his barking," I said with a smile. And I realized so had I. I still get nightmares sometimes. Still hear the gunshot. Still smell the ammonia. Still feel the cold floor under my hands. But I also wake up to Rex curled beside me. To the sound of laughter in the facility. To a life rebuilt. Not because justice was handed to me, but because I clawed it back. And because the one being who never stopped believing in me had 4 legs, fur and a growl that changed everything. It started with a letter. Handwritten. No return address. It arrived on the 1-year anniversary of my release. The handwriting was shaky. Masculine. Nervous. "Kayla, before you move on completely, there's one last thing you need to know. I didn't disappear because I was scared of Jason. I disappeared because he wasn't the only one involved. Someone else gave the order. Someone still active. You were never just a threat to Jason's money. You were a threat to something much bigger." It was signed, D. Moore. I took it to the FBI. They scanned it, authenticated the handwriting, and cross-checked it with intercepted communications from a yet unidentified figure still buried deep in law enforcement. Someone who called themselves only Whisper. The name had popped up in other corruption cases. A handler, a cleaner, someone with reach across departments. They'd given Jason the green light. They were still out there. Still watching. That night I checked my door locks twice. Rex slept near the window, ears twitching at every noise. I wasn't afraid. But I wasn't naive either. Justice had come, but not to all of them. The dog who saved me had cracked the case wide open. But this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And if Whisper was still out there, let them whisper. Because I had a story too. One the world would never forget. This time when the radio played and the microwave beeped, I didn't flinch. Sweatpants. Barefoot. Spaghetti turning slow in the microwave. Rex was belly up by the door snoring. No sirens. No secrets. Just silence. And justice.